Hi, everyone. It's Yvonne Emil Elizondo from Silver Moon Astrology and Transpersonal Counseling, also known as Silver Moon Counseling. I am going to do my best to get this video out. I've tried a couple of times. I've been waiting, but the landscapers are going back and forth. I hope you're not able to hear them, but we'll do our best. Okay, so the reason I'm here is because we want to talk about Mars. Now, I have a bone to pick with Mars, a big bone to pick with Mars. But so we're going to talk about Mars. We're going to talk about Gemini energy. And that's it for this video. There's a lot going on, but I'm going to break things up for everyone in hopefully shorter videos. But yeah, so let's talk about Mars. I'm going to show you the chart and I'm going to explain why this is pretty relevant right now. So this is the, whoopsie, I'm not sharing it with you. I am just noticing it myself. Okay, here we go. So share. Okay, so this is the chart I just cast for this morning. And so right now we have Mars in Gemini. Okay, today is the 25th. Mars ingressed from Taurus into Gemini on the 20th. Last week, I would have recorded the video then, except for the fact that Mars really set me on fire, literally, and I was not well at all this past weekend. So, bone to pick. Anyhow, so so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Mars energy, and then we're going to talk about the Gemini energy. Now, why is this relevant? Well, ideally, Mars spends about 6 weeks or so in each sign of the zodiac until it decides to retrograde. And it retrogrades about every 2 years. So if you can remember about 2 years ago, what you were doing, Mars was in Aries. About 2 years ago. And about 2 years ago is when we were having all of the issues with the COVID, right? The virus, and we had all sorts of issues going on. So yeah, before I move on to what Mars is, let me show you the chart and give you some dates. Okay, and just to give you an idea, Mars is going to be in Gemini for almost 7 months. So 6 weeks to 7 months, that is huge. All right, so here we go. So here's Mars. It ingressed on the 20th. So Mars is going to travel through Gemini, and around the end of October, and then it stations. And on November 3rd, it turns retrograde, which means it comes all the way back. And then on January 16th, it turns direct and it travels all the way out. And it's not out of Gemini until March 25th, 26th. So this is huge. Okay, now let's talk about Mars. So Mars, I am a traditional astrologer. I practice traditional astrology. I tap more into ancient astrology. And so from that point of view, Mars tends to be one of the 2 malefic planets. So we have 2 benefics. Yay, good luck, awesome, bring us joy and happiness, which are Jupiter and Venus. And then we have the 2 malefic planets, which are Saturn and Mars. Now, modern astrology kind of softens things up a little bit, in my opinion, but I kind of like the opposites in the chart, right? Like life is about balance, okay? Peanut butter jelly, salt and pepper, okay, that kind of thing. So it would make sense to me that we have benefics and we have malefics. Now with Mars is the malefic that causes inflammation. Okay, sometimes it's literal inflammation, sometimes it's in your head, sometimes it's in your external experiences, sometimes it's other people being inflamed, but Mars creates inflammation and separation from my perspective. Now, it is a fire energy, right? So it could also create passion, and it can create drive, and it can create motivation. But in the chart, Mars typically represents action, right? Like we're going to take action. How are we going to take action? It's the movement piece. It's the piece that sends our energy out into the world. So with Mars, I usually say we don't feel the effects of Mars until after Mars has, gone by. It's kind of like a rocket, right? We see the rocket coming, we see the fire coming, and we know it's going to hurt probably, and we're kind of ready for the hit. And then it goes by and it sets everything on fire. And then we see it go off, and now we have this torched earth or whatever it burns down, like my face. And so it goes by, and we don't deal with the after effects after it's kind of gone by. Now we have to put out the fires. Now we have to deal with whatever it is that Mars has created for us. Now, in that respect, a malefic planet, from my perspective, all planets, okay, but especially the malefic planets, it's not that they're here to create, that's not true. They are here to create intentional chaos sometimes, but they're here to create dis-ease. Really, I mean, the benefics create ease, the malefics like Mars create dis-ease, and dis-ease is like inflammation, separation, agitation, frustration. Okay, an intense amount of passion, if it's not controlled correctly, can get out of hand. Okay, so from my perspective, because I practice psychological and spiritual astrology, from my perspective, when Mars comes through a place in our chart, it's about how we can level up, right? I mean, dis-ease or more difficult and challenging situations are opportunities for us to level up, because the truth is that we probably would not level up if we were always happy and everything was great. It's during the dark night of the soul, like when your face is on fire because you ended up with post-inflammatory rosacea from a dermatological treatment to help alleviate pre-cancer spots. Yes, that's exactly what happened when Mars entered my house of psychology in Aries. Mars, Aries, fire. And then it went through my first house of Taurus and it created more problems. And so I have now been dealing with post-inflammatory rosacea. And anybody who has rosacea, oh my gosh, my heart goes out to you, because it is painful. It's like you cannot turn off the fire on your face. And I'm working with a new dermatologist to, help ease all of these symptoms, but it wasn't the best idea in Central Texas with the heat, so my face is constantly on fire. That's Mars. It went through my house of psychology. It literally, like, psychologically, I was like, holy cow, how am I going to control how am I going to control myself? This is insane. And then it went through my first house of body, of self, of the physical experience. And it just, so it's since May. Anyhow, these are the type of opportunities that Mars kind of creates. So let's talk about Gemini energy and what some of these manifestations could potentially mean. Gemini energy is air. It's mutable air. Okay, so it's movable. In fact, it's so movable that sometimes it spreads out too thin. But it is, and that's why it's kind of known as the moody type of energy, because it shifts very quickly. It is about the cognitive faculty, so represents air. It's about information. It's about data. It's about technology, all of the things that we need to disseminate information. If you have any Geminis in your life, you know that they're probably more likely than not pretty chatty, probably maybe a little social. Okay, we're really social, and they don't do well on their own a lot of times. Now, we have to take the whole chart into account. So if you're like, hey, I'm a Gemini and that doesn't sound right, it's because I'm generalizing here. Okay. But so this Gemini energy it's about the mind. It's about connection. Okay. It's about disseminating information from one place to another. It's air, right? It's mutable air. So when we put Mars in the sign of Gemini, that's already very, very movable. Okay. We'll see that this might tend to speed things up for Gemini, because that's what Mars does. It makes things very quick. And what happens when things are very quick in an already quick moving sign that's ruled by Mercury, sometimes we don't stop long enough to discern or make some pause, think, then act. It's almost like, oh, shoot, there goes the wind and there we go. So my suggestion would be, with Mars in Gemini, we may see more technological issues. We may see issues with information or misinformation or disinformation. We may see impulsiveness in communication. Be careful, because, we may see gatherings, because it is a social sign of whatever capacity, whether it's for protest, whether it's for, what goodness, supportive gatherings. We may see more connection. Okay. But along with all of that, we may see more anxiety show up, social anxiety, physical or mental anxiety, maybe spiritual anxiety, because that Gemini energy is so movable. Sometimes it has a difficult time grounding itself. And because it likes to get its hands into everything, all of the cookie jars, sometimes it can get overwhelmed. So for the next 6 or 7 months, generally speaking, we may see an uptick in more of those anxious or socially anxiously provoking type of situations. Watch how much you get involved with, okay? Don't pay attention to everything that you hear. Discern information for yourself. Ask yourself, does it sit that is what they're telling me on the news or what this person telling me, does it sit well with me? Does it resonate in my heart? Okay. Be very careful, drive more carefully, because again, Gemini is movable, right? It's ruled by Mercury. And so Mars in there, it can inflame drivers, much like a driver right behind me. I was watching her. She was on it. She was not okay. But she was doing all this. I'm like, oh yeah, she's not an okay driver. And sure enough, she tried to speed around me and cut me off. And there wasn't even a lane that she could go around and speed. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So be careful, be cautious, slow down, be mindful, be present. Okay. This Gemini energy can be very, very exciting. Okay. And it can create connections, but just don't be a risk taker during this time. Wherever Mars is in the chart, we don't want to be a risk taker. This is generally speaking, right? So wherever it falls in your chart, come in, if you don't know, come and get a consultation. We'll figure it out. This is happening for the next 6-7 months in my house of finances. I'm not a billionaire. I wish I was, right? So I know that I need to be more cautious with my finances. I know that I don't want to be impulsive with my resources, but at the same time, it could also mean that maybe I may get a quick uptick of my resources. Don't know. Now, does this mean that this energy is active from now until, March 25th? Not for everybody and not all at the same time. It depends, again, on your individual chart. And it also depends on the activators like the moon and when Neptune gets involved and makes everything kind of foggy. So don't fear this Mars and Gemini energy, but be cautious with it. Again, don't be impulsive. Slow down, because this energy can make you go and out. And yeah, that doesn't work very well. All right, everyone, if you want to learn more about your astrology, you can find me at silvermooncounseling.org. That is silvermooncounseling.org. And that is it. I will shoot out some more videos with some of the other stuff going on in the skies, because, of course, Mars and Gemini are not the only thing. And let's hope that Mars starts to settle down and that my face starts to calm its ass down, because thank you. All right, everyone, take care. Blessed be.